Yo,
Hey, Stephen. So how about we just start chatting here? If I'm not sure if Bosch is joining today. I think the big topic today is the Bitcoin Design Guide survey. But before we hop into that, thanks for all who joined so far on this community call. Community calls are meant to be a pretty open space for anyone who is interested in Bitcoin design to just show up, ask some questions, have conversations. We can totally shape this as we go. So feel free to raise your hand, bring up topics. If there's anything urgent or important, anything that's burning on your soul or not that you'd like to chat about, just raise your hand and we'll have a chat. And otherwise, we always have a few fallback topics, let's say, prepared. And I think the if you have seen on the Bitcoin Design account or in the Slack, a survey was just published, the Bitcoin Design Guide survey, because we're now also 2 years into that project. And so now it's kind of a good time to say to see where we are, if it's useful. I think it took 6 to 9 months for the first version to be kind of officially published and be live. Then we did a major second version that added Lightning. Now we're a few months after that, and so there's probably enough time for this document to kind of have an impact, ideally, in the space, people to use it, stumble across it, help improve it, make it useful. So I think that survey was a really good idea to do. And Mo, you're one of the two people that led this effort here. Would you like to tell us more about this survey?
Yeah, firstly, I honestly have to say a big hat off to all of the people who have been working on the design guide for the last 2 years, because the amount of content that's in there and the amount of work that goes into it is phenomenal. So seriously, take my hat off to you guys. Yeah, I've been working on the survey with Bosch, and he's unfortunately not able to join in on the call today due to the time zone that he's in. So I'm kind of just speaking on behalf of both of us. But I guess the goal is just to really get closer to the users, to you guys, and to understand what you want more of. What content are you guys interested in? What are you happy with? What are you not happy with? What would you like to see more of? Really, just that's the overall goal of the survey. I can get into more details, but that's kind of the bigger goal. Yeah, I mean, I can look at if I look at the kind of questions we're trying to answer is basically, is there adoption of the Bitcoin design guide? How can we get you guys to use the design guide more? So what can we add more of in the design guide so that it's more useful to you, whether you're just a hobbyist or you're building a product or you're thinking of building a product? How can we make it more valuable? And are you able to find the information that you're looking for quickly? Those are the real questions we're trying to answer. I'll leave it back to you, Christoph.
Cool, thanks. Yeah, thanks for the intro. I was just retweeting this here real quick. And we also had somebody, Stock Talk Weekly, come up here and request uh, um, to be invited as a speaker. So feel free to also share what you'd like to chat about, and then we can come back to the guide. What do you think, Stock Talk Weekly? Okay, cool. Maybe microphone problems or so. We'll just keep going. So so I'm not sure if everybody is super familiar with a design guide. It's meant as a tool for people who work on products and try to solve design problems. So that's kind of the audience. It also doesn't cover everything that's happening in Bitcoin and Bitcoin products. For example, we don't have a merchant section. We're just starting that, and the various areas that cannot be covered, but it's a completely open project that somebody's interested, in coming, putting content around design guidelines for hardware wallets or so, more than welcome to join and add those. So it's not going to be not everything is in there. Not every designer or builder will find something useful in there, but it's probably good enough for some of the. I think a lot of areas are touched, so that would be those would be good things to hear about on the survey. What has been useful, what has not been, where we could need more depth, and also what should go in there in the future. Considering this whole technology is still maturing and evolving, something I'm also curious about is, let's say, let's say people in, let's say, Western world say, yeah, these were really helpful for us. But then people in other parts of the world might say, it's not quite the thing that we're looking for here based on our context, our situation and whatnot, because it is a global technology that can be used in many different ways. So I'd be very curious here to know if there are any blind spots in there or any variations or anything else that we would need to cover. So let me see, Stephen, if you could entertain everyone for a second. I'm going to try to dig up the tweet and pin it, the one for the survey. I'll try to pin that up here.
I'll try my best to be entertaining for a second. Should I sing a song?
Oh yes, please.
Doom to doom to doom doom doom.
Oh my goodness!
I'm kidding. But I'll talk a little bit about maybe talk briefly about the merchants call we had earlier today. Yes, there's been a lot of discussion in the community over the past several months about merchants related content for the Bitcoin design guide. And I think Patricia probably kicked off a lot of that discussion a while back. And then, folks from Galoy and Lago Bitcoin have been very involved in our merchants channel and Slack. So, several of us who, work on the design guide full time are, kind of working on some other milestones right now. But I wanted to go ahead and kind of start the conversation around this just so we could, kind of be ready to start working on that in the near future. So we had a really good call this morning. You can watch it on our YouTube or our Bitcoin TV page now. And we kind of, hammered out some of the basic project management kind of stuff or how we're going to approach, getting this merchants content produced. So yeah, looking good. We had some folks from Galoy on the call with us, and I'm excited about it. So nothing really new there. I don't know how entertaining hearing about project management actually is, but keep an eye out for more work on merchants here in the near future.
I managed to pin the tweet up here real quick in the space. So if you follow that one, there should be a link in there to the survey. Fill it out. It's pretty brief, and the idea was to keep it very simple and short. And then if anybody's willing to, leave a contact information to kind of have a more of a one-on-one where we can dive deeper into whatever we want to discuss and share about the guide and how useful it is about the design problems people are solving, then we can kind of do that on the one-on-one basis. I think public surveys always, there's a limit to the depth that you can go to. I think a lot of times, in user research, it's a very common thing to just having a conversation directly with someone or a small group of people is usually the most helpful thing. And if anybody's worried about privacy too, there are ways to do this without sharing any personal information, name, anything. So it should also not be a problem. We don't want any data from anyone, basically. Just want to learn if this guide is helpful and what should be worked on. Anyone here has used the guide? Anybody in the audience here found it useful or found it not useful? Clicked around? Anybody wants to share anything there? Feel free to raise your hand and we'll just pick that up. Oh, Stock Talker, would you like to share something?
Yeah. Good day, everyone. I think there are a lot of things really going on right now, but there's no number for it, and I guess everything is happening in some little articles there I figure out. So I think I have some experiences about that, and So there are some little things a lot of people gonna know about this now. So I think I really do appreciate everyone here, and I think we should keep on going, and let's see what next coming up. Okay. So I have a lot of things to say there, but I'll just keep on those some little things I can do on my laptop right now. Some little things here I can hold on. I'm really down. I don't know how to feel. I feel so bad because I can see my Bitcoin hitting $20,000 in this moment.
I'm not entirely sure what's going. What are we talking about here?
Can you hear me, please?
Yes.
Okay, what do you say? Please be audible.
Okay. Thanks. Let's move on.
Yeah, sorry, man. I also had a hard time making that out. So Mo, another question for you as
But move
the
on this.
survey.
Can you please take a look at it?
Take a look at what?
Sorry, yeah, that did not seem to work out there. Yeah, if you want to chat about something, feel free to join the Slack and we can have a conversation there. But a little bit difficult here on the audio connection. But so yeah, Mo, kicking it back to you here. What are the next steps? What do you expect from the survey?
I think I fully agree with what Christoph said. Is the survey is just, it's basically just getting a lot of feedback from the wider audience, and really trying to figure out who the people are who are getting the most benefit from using the design guide. Are they product designers? Other sometimes referred to as UX designers. Are they product managers? Are they developers? Are they hobbyists who are just building their own product? And then having after we receive the results from that survey, is then having these really just quick informal chats with some people, and really just finding out what they want more of, essentially. What are they struggling with in their product development process? Or maybe they're just reading the Bitcoin design guide because they want more information on a specific topic. Maybe they're not even building a product. These are all questions that we'd like to get some answers to, because if we know those answers, then we can, I guess, work towards building content that's more focused for those people. So yeah, one-on-one chats in the future after the survey, and yeah, just getting closer to our audience. I think it's also nice to, I was chatting with Pavel about this early on, is to just build relationships with all those people who may have used the design guide but maybe use it less now, and just building relationships with them again as well. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm very excited to see. I'm obviously very close to this whole project. I find myself referring to it quite often in all kinds of conversations, but I'm also super familiar with it, right? I know pretty much all content in there. So when a conversation happens around a design problem, it's always like, okay, cool, we have something, some subsection in some subpage here somewhere that's relevant where this is documented or so. For me, it is very helpful, but it's that also makes sense. So the question is really how to, now that we have a lot of content, how to make it useful for more and more people out there without having them memorize it. And I think part of this whole effort of making the guide more useful is something we also I think that can be seen in a campaign Stephen did recently with BitcoinQR.com, which was about identifying a best practice of sharing Bitcoin and Lightning invoices at the same time. And he built a website for it, and a bunch of people rallied around it to try to get that implemented in different wallets. So that is kind of an extension of, like, a lot of what happens in the guide is around identifying best practices and documenting them and finding good solutions. But by themselves, they're not implemented. If you have something good written down, that doesn't mean anybody knows about it or actually acts on it. So Mo and I also did something similar with accessibility recently, and we're still testing different wallets, and then we find like ways to improve them in accessibility perspective, and then we file issues and try to help the projects improve. So I think that's kind of a big focus for the second half of this year, figuring out where the big gaps are, how to address them, identifying best practices, and then also getting super hands-on and trying to make things more useful. Pavel, I'm kind of curious. You're working a lot with BTC Pay. What's your sense there? It is merchant related. Like BTC Pay is more of a merchant tool, but do you think the guide has been helpful for the team and the project? It's okay to say no too.
Oh no, it was helpful actually. We've been using it, but the way our designer Distruct has been using it is mostly us facing a particular problem. For example, the sending wallet page that we're designing. So we would just go to the sending wallet page and don't really read too much text. But what he would do, from what I understood him, is mostly like take a look at examples that we designed and then try to adapt that to our specific use cases, I guess. So that's how I assume most people use the design guide. I really doubt that anybody will just read it top to bottom. So unless it's like a very new project that is just starting out. I think Colin here in the audience has used it in a similar way, like reading through it as he designed the new Bitcoin wallet he's working on. And I'm not sure what guys from Galloy, how they used it, but that's just the BTC Pay server experience. I will ask around. I asked our main designer, lead designer, Distruct, to fill out the survey and help us, of course, understand things a little bit more. And yeah, Bitcoin Design Guide, like many open source projects, faces this very common problem. You create something, but since you're not collecting data on people, you just don't know who is using it. And then it can be a blessing and a curse, because the way I like to say it is we are not focused on numbers and data, but actually like getting data from talking to people every day, which is, in my opinion, I guess, a good way to develop a product. But problem with design guide is that I don't think people are aware that they can provide feedback, and that if there is something that they find a hole or something, that they can just let us know. So I think we also need to work on that, having a better way for people to realize, hey, okay, I read this, it doesn't make sense, or I need this and that, and how do I voice my concern about it. So if we were to open our website to, I guess, adapt it so that it has like a feedback type of system, which would either open a GitHub issue or maybe redirect people to the Slack channel where they can ask questions, I think we can get some easy points as well. Because with products, it is very easy to get feedback from people because they're using a wallet, their money is stuck, and they are incentivized to dig a little bit deeper. They're always panicking if something is not working. But with content like this, they would read it, maybe not understand it, and move on. It's not like their product or their experience will break. So that's why they are not like incentivized to arrive to chat and ask questions. So we can do that, like improve feedback, and also incentivize people to let us know, like, hey, if you're using the guide after 5 minutes on page or something, I'm not sure if this can be done without tracking, but just let them know that you can tweet at us, you can DM us, or you come to Slack and let us know. We would like to learn how are you using it. So, but yeah, I'm rambling. Too long didn't read. BTC Pay Server has used guide quite a few times, but I'm not sure specifically how. So I will send a survey. I already sent a survey to our lead designer, and I see that Tamu has hands up. So take it over, Mo. I'm rambling too much.
Not at all, Pavel. You always say stuff that makes sense. But I had another idea that, I'm just thinking out loud is that we've done the survey now on the Bitcoin design guide, but the community itself is something completely, well, it's not separate, because they're interrelated, but the community itself is another aspect. So I'd be very curious also, in terms of the community itself, what kind of channels people are getting the most value from. Is it helpful if they ask questions, that kind of thing. I think that the community, maybe some research also into what the community enjoys, the actual Slack channel, to try to get it as most helpful for the community as possible. Just as simple as tell us what you want. That's essentially the goal of a survey is, just getting people to tell you what they want. And the word survey is a very, research orientated tool word, but it's essentially just talking to people and finding out what they want, what they need more of, to make things better for them. So yeah, I'll just leave that thought there.
To add something that Pavel said earlier, I think most of the people who work on the design guide, they are deeply involved in some other projects. Bosch works on Zeus. I've helped with hands-on designing various different projects. I think everybody, like Pavel, you're involved with BTC Pay. Daniel has his own project. I think it's never just a super theoretical part. I think a lot of stuff that people bring in is from their needs from being involved in something. And I think the project people are involved in is quite different and unique too, which is really cool. So I think that helps anchor it a little bit. And to Mo, what you were saying too is the survey is definitely good. Something that I've also found super useful is, and that takes time and kind of sensitivity, is just regularly, constantly paying attention to what people are talking about. And there's kind of an ebb and flow in communities. Certain conversations come up and disappear, and then they'll come back up. And when you notice something is being discussed a few times, so the same design problem is brought up 3, 4 times, or 5 times over a few months or so, then you know that there's some need, like the things that stick out. And in addition, an interesting thing is then if you react to that, if you create that feature, or if you document that thing and you address it, then you have to pay attention to the silence, because if you did address it properly, that thing will not come up anymore. But that requires a continuously paying attention to the community and its all the unique things and dynamics that happen there in there. So it's very very squishy thing, a very soft human type of thing. The opposite of this hard data collection, I would say, through analytics and whatnot. But yeah, all of these different things together are all insightful in their own ways. Mo, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I see that Andrew from Galoy is here on this call, and he's just been, I quite enjoy all of the discussions and stuff that he initiates, within the Bitcoin design community Slack channel. And I just be curious in terms of actually the community itself, what helps you guys at Galoy, Andrew, in terms of, when you're like, maybe posting a message, when are you kind of turning to the Slack channel, for feedback or advice or that kind of thing? Just curious to hear from you.
Hey, just adding him as a speaker. There we go.
Hey, can you hear me? All
Yep.
right. Thanks, Mo. Thanks, everybody. It's funny. I was kind of laughing there because I was just about to raise my hand. You guys definitely touched on a couple of things that I was interested to share my experience, and especially when you think about the community versus the guide. And really, one of the things that's been super helpful is I've been maybe watching or part of the Slack channel for a while, but more recently been probably vocal, as Mo noticed. And so really I found the Slack to be such an awesome and like welcoming resource for people to jam on a topic. And like one recent example that I think is relevant here is this concept of like terminology that we use. So I posted about the term like within a Lightning wallet, like if you have um, multiple buckets from which you can receive you can receive to or send from, like what do you call that, right? Is it an account? Is it a wallet? Is it a balance, right? And I just kind of posted this, and we had a great conversation. I think there was like 40 comments or so, and pushing and pulling on some of the terms. And I think it's because we're building on Bitcoin, which is open, Lightning, which is open, with an open community. It's just so inspiring, like how different it is from the traditional financial system where it's like it's so closed and competitive. Here it's like, hey, like we're building interoperability into the products that we work on. And so for me, the community is on Slack is an awesome um, resource for that. And so like Bosch, for instance, shared some screens from Zeus, said calling it an account, and in Blue Wallet it's called a wallet, right? And so the fact that we're working together to kind of hammer out and push and pull on these terms, I think is really helpful. One of the things I wanted to mention was like maybe an opportunity for improvement, or maybe this exists somewhere I haven't found it, but like how something goes from being a useful discussion on Slack to something that gets posted somewhere where it doesn't disappear. So for Galloy, we recently moved from Slack to Mattermost. I think some of the folks here are probably in it. We're on chat.galloy.io, but the reason we did that is because we were tired of like losing these conversations that happened in the past, and then we're like gone forever. And so is there, I guess it would be an open question, like is there a way um, or a place where interesting conversations can get kind of cemented in time to point to? Because Christoph, you mentioned that you often go back to the guide, right, as somebody who's close to it to help convey ideas. And I think that would be something useful for me, because I don't want to be the guy who comes in like asks the thing for the 10th time, right? And if there was like, oh yeah, we had a great conversation about this, here's where we netted out, it would be cool to have some searchable index of like past conversations or something. So that's just one thing I was thinking about, like in between the sort of the guide and the Slack.
Yeah, I think I've heard that a few times. Definitely regretting the Slack choice a little bit. I think it would cost over 100,000 per month or so to actually pay for Slack for a community, which is pretty ridiculous. I mean, other than that, Slack works great, but
Right.
that is one of the things. Um,
Well, we also have a Discord, but that's like there's an experiment, and you know, I mean, the Mattermost seems like an option and all that if someone's willing to host it. I think personally, I think we should open an issue in the GitHub meta repo and just turn this into a formal discussion about what our preferred chat platform is going to be, because I feel like this is one of those issues that's kind of resurfacing, and I think drives everybody nuts that they some of our history's locked off. So I think we should turn this into a formal discussion and actually do something about it.
What Andrew said was also very interesting, because basically what if I understood correctly, it's about, you know, you'd like to maybe have the ability to ask a question, and then you were wondering kind of when does that question get turned into content maybe. And there's actually a very interesting book called, I think it's called They Ask, You Answer. And it's a way of actually building content purely based around the questions from the audience. So if someone asks a question and it generates quite a lot of, traction, So this might be a question in Slack, then it might be an idea. And I'm literally just thinking out loud because, I think that there's a lot of strategy that goes behind the content that's put into the guide. But for example, a question that Andrew might ask in the Slack that might, get a lot of traction with a lot of input could then be turned into content, maybe a page in the guide or half a page in the guide, because those are then, quite clear indications of questions that are being asked, proper problems that are trying to be solved within the entire ecosystem. Just thinking out loud.
We actually have a document called projects.md in the Bitcoin design / meta repository, and it describes that a little bit. Is where we, a lot of ideas and conversations happen, but only some of them turn into bigger things, and it talks a little bit about what that is. So here's a project life cycle. It starts with idea. That is just kind of a conversation, a reference, a sketch or something. Then it turns into some conversation might happen. It turns into a concept that's a little bit more mature, and that might become an issue on GitHub. It's fleshed out a little bit further in a conversation. Then it maybe becomes into a proposal, and then maybe you have a Google Doc and maybe some rough designs or so. But all of this is very organic, and it starts like with an idea, and many ideas just go nowhere. As we know, many conversations happen, don't go anywhere. But maybe some of them then catch on, and then some of them go all the way into these projects. And it's really just a matter of how the individuals respond and gather around these things. Yeah, it's also a very, very squishy process, I think, that requires all of us to participate. And it's not, you don't, if you find something useful, you don't always have to be able to respond to it. Even just having some positive emoji, fire, flame, 100 responses or so are also a helpful thing sometimes to signal that you find something useful or interesting.
Go ahead, Paul.
Yeah. So yeah, I just think we identified a few problems. Like first, people knowing that they can actually voice their concerns, and that the Bitcoin Design Guide is not a news website where you read an article, bail out after you get your information. It's actually a community of people. So what we should do is try to encourage them to join our chat, ask questions, provide feedback, and things like that. And on top of that, I think what Andrew raised is also a very important concern. Is like, first, okay, disappearing messages in Slack. At some point, every open source project needs to move away from Slack. That's at least my experience. And now that sparks an endless debate of the best platform and what works the best. And then it will take probably 6 months for everybody to agree on what's the best. But anything is better than Slack, basically. We lose quite a lot of conversations based and lots of good points, as Andrew pointed out. But another point that I really think is important is as well, once a question is asked, if we cannot answer it by providing a guide, in a paragraph or a link to the guide, then somebody needs to document this somehow. And eventually, if this is like a valid, I guess, issue, then somebody needs to open it on the GitHub, and we need to tackle it. So I think what Andrew was saying is that we are really lacking on that end. I noticed that we have lots of questions, lots of discussions, but somehow we always, at least my experience is like that we never document them properly. And this is not like me criticizing, because this should probably be my job. So I guess we just need to be better at that, like documenting things, and whether GitHub is proper platform for that, I don't know. But yeah, somehow trying to tie things up. That's what we do when we are making products, right? Customer keeps complaining about being stuck at certain step, and once 2, 3, or 4 of them complain, what do? Okay, we file that as an issue and we address it and fix it. So we need to do things in a similar way. If 3 people asked us about, I don't know, automatic cloud backup not being clear enough, then it means that we need to fix it, and then we need to open an issue and address it, I guess. So I guess better work on our end to document what people say, better platform not to lose what people are saying, because I'm really mad at us losing 2 years of conversations and so many great discussions. It is insane that we have to even, repeat everything all over again. And lots of people just search through messages. That's my experience. Like for the BTC Pay, we have MetaMask for I think 5 years now. So basically, any problem can already be answered just by people typing a query in MetaMask search. So that's another thing. So yeah, I think we identified at least 2 or 3 areas in which we can improve.
Yeah, didn't mean to open up. I mean, that's a heck of a can of worms for sure. But yeah, it came up the other day where our team was actually working on this terminology issue that I had brought up. So account versus wallet, and I had that feeling, which a lot of us probably have, which is, oh God, I hope it's not gone yet. Like I don't, I don't know how long things last in the chat. And then I copied a link to the thread and shared it. And so I guess the reason I bring that up is like, I don't know, from my experience, there are certain conversations that when they're happening, like this is something that should be saved, so that people can find it later. And so even maybe as a shorter term solution, like a place where we could copy out a thread of comments that's like, hey, that that's something, and I'm looking at Christoph, this life cycle here. It may even be just part of like the concept phase or something, which is like a way to collect interesting conversations about terms. It's not ideal because you're using like judgment and uh, uh, somebody's discipline, I guess would be the right word, to be like, oh, now I need to take this out of Slack and put it somewhere else. But it may be a stopgap measure, because moving off of Slack is a pretty big undertaking.
And also think about the conversations that you wish were not searchable, that you don't want anybody to find anymore after the fact.
I mean, there's something to be said about that, right? Like, it's like I'm picturing what you see on Twitter where people are like, remind me of this in 2 years. Like, is there a plugin or something where? And I just realized I'm looking at these threads right now. You can actually bookmark something in Slack. I don't know if that protects it from getting forgotten or not. But
nope, not at all.
that's great. But is there a way or a plugin for us to like export threads that are really interesting via a hashtag or a like a plugin or something?
I mean, something to add something that to Baf said a little bit earlier is, we should document these things. I mean, who's the we here, right? You have kind of a group of the regulars that handle certain things and kind of create a base activity structure, foundation, whatever you want to call it. But in reality, there's so much stuff that we could have in the guide, so many things we could document, like something that was brought up earlier was a guide for merchants and how merchants could adopt Bitcoin in their businesses. There were also a conversation or something that was talked about several times over the last couple of years was a user guide. Because as designers, as people in the community learn, they also want to document and share that and kind of help other people, onboard a little bit more quickly. And I think and there are various other things, and some of them, we just need someone to just do it, just start it and make it happen. So everyone here who's listening, or if you know someone who wants to kick a project off, like nothing's stopping you. Just kick it off and make it happen. It does require some commitment, but then nothing good happens without any sort of commitment. If this is all stuff that we want to see, then we're the ones to make it happen.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about the flow. How would that work? Like, okay, I read something in the guide. I did not find information. How would I discover that I can actually raise a concern or ask a question? Right now, I don't think we have a flow for that. So, okay, let's say that I stumble upon a Slack link in the footer, which is unlikely, but okay. I come to Slack, I ask a question, it gets certain amount of replies. What's next? What do we do with that? I guess let's say that we found a community consensus. That would be ideal situation around something and how we could communicate that and add it to the guide. What's next? Do we open an issue for it? Do we file it as a GitHub discussion? I don't know. But yeah, we need to find a way to transfer those questions and also like encourage people to ask them, because otherwise with Slack, everything will be lost eventually. So either we transfer to Slack and add a little bit of structure and flow on how people can submit feedback. And also we need to discuss like which feedback is important, which one we add, which one can be like considered for the future. It's like we're now entering a phase of, as Andrew said, like project management can of worms. So I don't want to go into that, but I guess we can really improve in that regard. But yeah, I'm going a little bit off topic now.
Yeah,
But
something I was thinking with the survey was actually, why don't we just always keep that on? Design guide landing page, link to a survey. Hey, how can we make this better? Very simple. And for anybody interested, at the bottom, the footer of all of the design guide pages, there's a link called Edit This Page, which links you straight into the GitHub source of that page, which is a pretty rough place to land if you're not familiar with it. And then there's also a link to the contribute page. And we also have a contribute page in the design guide, but right, it's pretty far down. You have to look for it. So it's all about making things a little bit easier. But we have 15 minutes now left. How about we get out of the PM mode, and how about we all just share a little bit about where we like, what do you want to see in a year or two in the guide? Like, what do you like? What's the thing that's missing for you? I mean, personally, I'm very curious where Lightning's now maturing a lot. Lots of technical things are being sorted out. Infrastructure's being built. People are figuring out how to build all these different wallets and onboarding people and Lightning services. And then you have stuff like Fedimint and Taro, these proposals. Taro seems to be one that really evokes a lot of dreaming in different people. So I'd be kind of curious to see where we are with this technology that's just kind of proposed right now. You can't even use it, right? It's people are just figuring out how this can even be built. I'm going to be really curious if, let's say, 1 year, 2 years down the road, where we are with web-based Lightning applications, with Taro, with Fedimint, and some of these things. Because if you think about that, especially with Taro, you have all these assets and multiple currencies, then a wallet becomes much more than just send, receive, and list of transactions. There's potentially all kinds of stuff going on. A node can become a lot more than just routing Lightning payments. Let's say your personal node could also allow people to swap between Bitcoin and some local currency token or whatever. So that's something that I have no idea how it's going to pan out, but it seems like things are bubbling, and I'll be interested to see that and where that takes us. How about the others?
Yeah, Fediment is definitely the one right now that's piqued my curiosity the most. It's one of those projects that seems like it. I mean, in addition to just if you for those who aren't aware, it's this project that would basically you can create this federated mint, which allows you to kind of like it's almost like a kind of like running your own like tiny little bank. But basically, what you're doing is you're holding Bitcoin, but then you're creating these eCash tokens that people can spend instead of the Bitcoin. And that sounds like kind of a shitcoin, but essentially the idea is that it uses this blinded signature technology to where there's this high level of privacy to where the mint can't really know who's spending what token. That's my understanding. Might have got something wrong there, but yeah, I'm just very curious about that because that just seems like it could solve privacy on Bitcoin in some way. It just seems like it would be a huge privacy boost, and that's kind of one of the big sticking points about Bitcoin. and just in addition to things like price volatility, there's just always this, problem of privacy. So I think that's, one project I'm definitely interested, want to see some design guide content for that sometime over the next year, I think, even though it's still kind of early days, but that would be super cool.
Yeah, I think Fediment should also be help with scaling and also with fees, if I understand it correctly. You're basically locking up some Bitcoin, then you have a group of people who manage those, and they can hand out these Bitcoin IOUs basically to other people, and then the people involved, the guardians who manage them, and the clients or whatever you want to call them, they basically handle all of this stuff on chain, still using tons of cryptography to keep it all secure and private. But basically, all this stuff happens on chain until at some point everybody considers, okay, we're done with this arrangement now. We want to close this, and then the Bitcoin turn back from these IOUs into just regular on-chain Bitcoin. So it should be, yeah, all kinds of interesting things happening there, but it also, yeah, kind of complex. And I'm very curious to see how the development happens there. Who else? Mo, what do you think?
Yeah, in terms of all of the futuristic stuff, I do have to say that you guys are definitely, in terms of technical know-how, I would say light years away ahead of me, pun intended. But I think that, I think that if there's definitely some emerging technologies that can make the products that we're developing, I don't know, easier to use or more user friendly, then I'd definitely be more interested in learning more about that.
I bet you're also curious to see a lot more UX research in the guide,
For
like
sure.
activity.
I'm very, I would say very is a light word to use, but I'm very passionate about, removing I think when people hear the word research, they always almost see like this big pile of books on the table and glasses. And, in my opinion, it's really as simple as speaking to people, getting closer to users, and that's pretty much it. There's nothing super scientific or complicated about it. And I'd love to be this person really advocating that it's as simple as you make it. And you can decide how much of research you want to implement yourself into your product development process. It could be something that takes you an hour every week, or it could be maybe you say, hey, I want to take 5 hours. But I think that's the beauty of research. You can decide if and when you want to do it. And I know that Andrew's really passionate about it as well, so I'm definitely looking forward to organizing another UX research call. And I think the important thing is just have fun with it. We had a lot of fun on that call. We all just jumped into a Figma file. We just, people were sharing how they conduct research, different methods, how they understand users. It was super interesting to hear practical stories from I think Amber Wallet was there as well. Really practical applications of how they get to understand their users. Just removing the stigma from UX research. It's a really simple thing. So that's it.
Awesome.
I'll maybe vote that comment up. I think somebody recently mentioned like if I took the comment the right way, like developing a bit of a user research panel, which is something I've been thinking about as well. I don't know if there's been progress on that, but something like it would be really neat to be able to deploy surveys or calls for user testing discussions among like maybe people outside of product designers, right? Like end users. And I think this is like it's like a slow a slow and steady process to do so. Something that we've been thinking about at Galloy, which is like whether it probably not a channel on Mattermost, but more like an email distribution list to say, hey, we have a new feature. We would like to get feedback on it from like your everyday user, and kind of building out our muscle to do those types of turns quickly. would be really cool. And yeah, I loved the user research call and was bummed I missed it. The like the whole jobs to be done and personas, and I've I've been in a lot of those sort of design processes in my previous life, and so I was like, oh man, I'd love to just join this conversation and help us collectively provide sort of the when to do what, as we do sort of approach that in the Bitcoin space, because I almost like laugh or cringe or something with like jobs to be done, because I think it's like such a cool framing, but I've also seen it be kind of like overused or used in the wrong scenarios, where it becomes like a semantics sort of cyclical discussion. So anyway, super excited about that thread. And then I think the things that for me have already probably been mentioned, like the whole like merchant experience is something I'm super excited to continue.
We definitely want you on the next UX research call. I say want you, I mean, if you're open to joining.
I'll actually, I'd love to. I'll share, and I shared this in Slack on the thread. There's Jared Spool, who's a pretty, I guess, respected designer, UX thinker, has an article called something to the effect of like, it's about the scenario, not the persona, which I always thought was just such an interesting and kind of like high signal in terms of like personas can oftentimes become like about the wrong thing versus like the moment that somebody's trying to solve for. And so yeah, excited about that. And then lastly, I see John's down there. I'm bullish on Bolt Fun and sort of like bringing Lightning to web apps and experiences. That is such like a is one of my favorite things is like Stacker News, Geyser, like using Lightning on sites is like I'm super excited about that entire space.
Just to add with the next UX research call, with the UX research toolkit that's being developed for the Bitcoin design community, one of my goals is to make sure that whatever's developed or designed is really practical. So I think that the UX research calls where you guys are just basically jumping on and sharing your input around, this is being useful, this is absolutely not being useful in terms of UX research, or this UX research tool is too far from the product itself to actually be implementable. I think those are the kinds of discussions that we need to have, because that's really going to help me to, create the right tools for you guys to use in the ecosystem. So yeah.
Was Manu part of that last call? Because isn't he interested in facilitating exactly this type of connecting products with people who are willing to test?
He's just come back from a really long from a holiday. I'm not sure if I was allowed to share that, but he's just come back from a bit of a breakaway. So he actually contacted me on Slack the other day. I haven't quite heard from him back yet, but I'll definitely get him to also try to join on one of the calls. Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. And then, ideally within a few more years, nobody will look at the design guide anymore, because all of the products out there are just so amazing and so useful and so well designed that, we're just done. Nothing more to design. We can ride off into the sunset. Until layer 3, layer 4, layer 5 of Bitcoin happen. Then we'll have to get back to it. We'll see where this journey takes us. We're almost close to the hour, so I would just repeat, fill out the survey. It's linked up there. If you have used the Bitcoin Design Guide before, let us know how it works. If not, maybe take a quick look, poke around, and let us know if you're working on a Bitcoin product, what problems you're facing, what you would like to see, what documents you'd like to see, what design solutions you'd like to see detailed out, all of these things. And any other last words here from the group or from the audience? Okay, Stephen, would you like to do the favor
Yeah,
and maybe tell a joke or sing a song to wrap this up? A
yeah,
poem will do too.
a poem. I don't know. I'm trying to come up with like a "Why did the chicken cross the road" joke because um, I just crossed a road. So it just seemed like there would be some kind of conceptual symmetry there that, like, oh, I'm telling a "Why did the chicken cross the road" joke while I'm crossing a road. But honestly, one isn't really coming to me right now. So, man, I'm really sorry I messed that one up.
No worries, all good. Oh, Colin just asked to say something. What's up, Colin?
I just wanted to say that I've been using the design guide for a while now. It's been maybe a month now since I started using the design guide for an open source wallet. And honestly, it's been a really good experience trying to understand things at that level because as a developer, you don't really think about certain elements when you're thinking about how does my wallet work, what's the flow I'm supposed to go with. But of course, trying to see this from a designer's point of view, as a developer, it's quite interesting. And I think I use it every day. It's pretty much an open tab on my laptop every single day. And I want to say thank you so much for creating this amazing tool. And I honestly have found so much use for it, and I've been trying to, of course, ask questions. The community has also been very, very helpful. Everyone is willing to answer questions and to respond to you and share their expertise. So I'm really grateful for that as well. And as much as possible, I've seen some of the new screens that Christoph shared earlier, and it's exciting just to see what else is coming, and I really can't wait. Yeah, thank you so much.
Awesome, thank you. That's really awesome to hear. Thank you for that feedback, and well, that's awesome. Let us know what other things you'd like to see in the guide. We'll make it all happen together. And Mike also just requested to speak. So what's up, Mike?
Yeah, I'm gonna take you up on your offer to sing a song. So here it goes.
Nice.
The price I always wanted, price I always needed is here in my arms. Shit coins are very unnecessary. They can only do harm. There you go.
Awesome. That was amazing.
I love that.
Oh my God, that was hilarious. Well done.
Do you have a
That
lightning
was
tip? Do you have a lightning tip jar where the audience can tip you?
No, but actually, I can't take credit for that one either. That's from my boy in Brazil, another Bitcoiner called Vilson, and he has a couple of Bitcoin cover songs. I don't think he officially put out, but yeah, I know. I appreciate the kind words. That's all.
awesome. That was the absolute perfect way to wrap up this call. Thank you so much for that. We'll have to invite you and your friend again for the future. Hold on, what's this? Oh, there it is. Check out the tweet at the top, everyone.
Yep.
When
I'll
maybe
put 'em in
once
the nest.
the awesome. Definitely checking it out. So thank you so much. Everybody go and watch that video now. Listen to all the other songs that are probably on there. And we'll see you next time. And also make sure to fill out the survey.
Later.
Cheers.